today we're talking all about the Dragon Ball Z specific movie villains and what we think about them, what we like, dislike, and yeah, let's just talk about them. Let's rank them. Let's see if we can do it. There's 10. I'll quickly run down all 10 and then we'll get started. So, in order of movies, we have Garlic Jr. from The Dead Zone, Dr. Wheelo from The World's Strongest, Turles from The Tree of Might, Lord Slug from Lord Slug, Cooler from Cooler's Revenge and The Return of Cooler, Android 13 from Super Android 13, Broly from The Legendary Super Saiyan, Second Coming and Bio Broly, Bojack from Bojack Unbound, Janemba from Fusion Reborn, and finally Hirudegarn from Wrath of the Dragon. So that was a mouthful. So, got to get started. Should we start with Garlic Jr.? What do you think about him?
I think Garlic Jr. He's very. I mean, he's cliche. It's a typical revenge story. I don't think there's anything directly wrong with him, I suppose. But basically, he kind of the way he defeats himself is the most ridiculous thing ever. The way he beats himself is, I mean, he makes himself immortal, and he opens the dead zone. It's like, why? It's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. It's like, imagine Zamasu and Goku Black like did that in current Super. Like, they did the one thing that could allow them to be defeated. Like, it's insanity. And I think that's why Garlic Jr. is just such a terrible bad guy to have such just a blind spot. Like, everything else about him makes him a decent, like, he's got like he wants to get revenge. He has he's after Kami, so he's not after like Goku, which is quite interesting.
It's a change
compared to because all always after. Yeah, it's always Goku, isn't it? And he's actually got his more immortality, and he's after his father's death, and it's something like we've never actually seen his father, so there's a tale, so to speak. There's interesting things there, but the fact that he does that takes so much away from me, and it just makes him so stupid, for lack of a better opinion. It's just, it's just like you were so interesting, and then to do something so ludicrously dumb. It's just like, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but here's a bit of controversy on my part. I'm going to rank him number 1 straight away. I think he is the best of the movie villains. Simply because, like you said, he is really good. He's unique. And I honestly think the writing of the Z movies goes downhill very quickly. And the motives and the character of Garlic Jr. to me is very good. Like you mentioned, he's not after Goku. He is the only villain on this list who isn't after Goku, pretty much. He's after Kami specifically. And out of every other movie villain, they always go for the main character. And Kami is not a main character. He's hardly even a side character. He's like a third choice character. And he's the one that Garlic Jr. is after. And he is, I think, potentially, or maybe one of 2 villains who successfully wish to become immortal. He gets that wish, it works, he becomes immortal. And he is only defeated, like you say, because he opened the dead zone. But he opened it because he thought he was immortal. He thought no one's going to be able to stop him. It is a bit of stupidity on his part. But, you know, if I'm thinking I'm Garlic Jr. right now, I've just wished for immortality, I'm thinking, okay, well, I can't be beat. I'm immortal. Yeah, I'll open the dead zone. Let's put in my mortal enemy into the dead zone. Who's going to stop me? I'm immortal. He probably didn't think that, you know, he could also wind up back in there. So yeah, it is a bit of a dumb part on his part, but he does succeed in using the Dragon Balls. He is immortal. He could technically come back at any time in Dragon Ball Super even. If they, for whatever reason, open the dead zone, he could escape and he's still alive because he's immortal. If they want to make him canon all of a sudden. But yeah, he's strong. He puts up a good fight, especially against Piccolo for a while. And it's overall, to me, it's a really solid movie. I really like it. And yeah, it is his own stupidity that costs him in the end. But as far as a movie villain goes, I've got to rank him highly, and I am putting him number one.
Yeah.
Oh, straight off the
I
bat.
think, although I think, to be honest, I think I'm very negative against all of them, if I'm
Mm,
honest,
yeah,
because if I'm being honest, none of them are particularly good.
no,
They
I
all
don't think
have
so.
no. I don't think there's any of them that I look at and I think, wow, that is a good. I don't look at them the same way I look at Beerus's film and think
Mm,
that is a bad guy, or the new Super Broly and think, wow, that's a bad guy.
yeah,
No, I look at them and I see them and I just think it's ridiculous.
yeah.
Bio Broly, how I'm being a bit harsh. I think yes, I think Garlic has the correct. I think you're probably right. Garlic is the top of the list based
Mm,
on that. Um, I would agree in terms of I do like the fact that he does go for Kami and things like that. I think that is very much that does very much go in his favor.
mm,
Um, and especially I probably would have liked to see more of like I know it's his father's death. It's I think it's interesting. It's like I think that's a bit of a cliche though.
mm.
Like you killed my father, and it's like, yeah, do you know
Prepare
what I
to die.
mean? Yeah, yeah, basically. Um, but it is interesting as well that he did actually get the immortality,
Mm.
because yeah, I don't think anybody did that all the way up until Zamasu.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but also, I think out of all of the movie villains, him, uh, Bojack, and Cooler are the only three I could see if they were canon, they could have a full arc. The rest of the villains, they're like a mini arc, if anything. But Garlic Jr., I
yeah,
reckon you could get a full arc out of him. You could probably
yeah.
get one out of Cooler, and you could probably get one out of Bojack and his like team. The rest of
Mhm.
them, nothing. But yeah, Garlic Jr. I really like as a villain. I think he's really good. I like his motives. I like how he succeeds in his wish. Yeah, they needed a way to defeat him because that's how Dragon Ball movies go. You know, there is a villain, they show him being really strong, and then they find a way to defeat him. And this is the only way that kind of makes sense. He got his wish of immortality. How else are you supposed to beat him apart from getting him trapped in the place that he came from? So, yeah,
I
it
think this
works
is
to
the,
me.
I think this to me is the equivalent of it's when you think about it. Actually, it's what they did here is exactly what Super did with Zamasu.
Hmm. Yeah.
They set up like a really good immortality and a really good bad guy who they didn't really have a way to defeat,
Hmm.
and then they screwed the pooch in the way to defeat them.
Yeah.
So they had the magic sword, and he turned into the sky for obviously Super,
That
and
was
for
stupid.
Garlic Junior, they basically made him trap himself.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been a much, but I think it could have just been an outright good film
Hmm.
if they found a different way to do it.
Or even if someone else opened the dead zone, that would it. That would all they would need to do. If Cammy opened the dead zone instead of Garlic Jr. opening it, then it would have
What's
been fine.
what's wrong with the evil containment wave
All
as well?
that, yeah, yeah, could have used
Like,
that.
yeah, I mean, I know it's been done with Demon King Piccolo, but like, I mean, that makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
you can't defeat him, so
Trap him.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's what they tried to do with Sanzu. It makes sense.
Hmm.
It would have made sense to do it in Super as well,
Yeah,
but they decided not to for some reason. There
yeah.
are so many times that they don't go with the smart option, and I think this would have been a good time to do it.
Hmm.
So yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Garlic, um, but I think it does sour it does sour it quite a bit for me that he did that. I thought it was a very silly way for him to be defeated. And I
Yeah,
think it's the same with like the Goku Black arc is that that entire arc is soured for me for how it ended because I really enjoyed the majority of the arc
hmm.
until the end.
Yeah,
I think it's similar with this really.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him.
Uh,
He is a good villain.
I can agree with the ending being a bit bad, and they could have changed just the minor thing of someone else opening the dead zone, and it would make sense a bit more. but overall as a villain, I really love him, and I'm just being conscious that we have 10 villains to go through.
Yeah,
So let's
yes,
let's
yes. Come
move
on, let's
on.
do. Yes,
And okay, next up is Dr. Wheelo from The World's Strongest, who, in my opinion, is the absolute worst out of all 10 of
yes,
these.
100% agree. Yep, he's a ridiculous, ridiculous villain. Makes zero sense. Just
Yeah,
there's nothing to him.
he is a
I
brain.
don't get it. Yeah, he's not a villain. He's just this weird.
He's a scientist who, when he
Yeah,
died, his brain got transported into this giant robot android thing, and that's it. He continues being a bit evil. And yeah, I don't like the idea of the villain. It was a nice callback to get Bulma involved a bit and interacting with another scientist, but also it's like, okay, but he's just a brain. That's it. That is what he is. I don't like him. I don't think he's a good villain. Definitely the worst out of all of them. Has to be.
yeah. No, I 100% agree. There's nothing to him. I yeah. There's nothing to even talk about if you ask me.
Yeah, same.
Just
Like it's
there's
not a
nothing
good
there.
film.
Yeah.
Nothing of interest really happens too much. Yeah, I guess let's just move on. We'll have more to
Yeah,
talk about
I'm happy to
about.
move on. There's just nothing there. There's nothing to him.
Yeah, I mean we've got more to talk about on the more interesting villains.
Yeah.
And speaking of one of them, we next up is Turles from the Tree of Might. So this is an interesting one to me. But
Yes, same.
what do you think about him?
This might be a bit controversial, but I quite like Turles for a strange reason,
Hmm.
and it's the fact that I think potentially Goku Black might not exist if Turles didn't exist.
I also think that.
Yes.
That's what I was going to
I think,
mention.
yeah, I think Turles is the inspiration for Goku Black.
Yeah, 100%.
I think there was I think they liked the idea of it. I mean, look at him; he's Goku.
He's evil Goku. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
right.
I mean, it's memed to bits before Super even happened.
Mhm.
Um, and the film itself isn't great, but the Turtles himself is the concept I like,
Mhm.
and I think that he's very important because of that,
Mm.
and I think because of his existence, whilst he in himself isn't that important, I think what he's created, having existed, is very important because he's led to Super.
Mm.
And I think because of that, I think he's very important. And that's why I do like him. I
Yeah.
mean, at the same time, he's also not the worst. He's by far not the worst on this list.
No,
Um,
definitely not.
and I think it is interesting the strength that he gets from the fruit from the
Mhm.
tree of might. Um, I mean, the Tree of Might itself is a bit questionable, but the fact that he gets the power up is a bit unique. It's not something we've really seen before.
Yeah.
I, I do find it quite interesting. Yeah, it is a bit. It's a bit different.
Mm.
I find.
The whole story for me is bad. It's a bad story, and overall, I would say it's a bad film. But the character of Turles is at least decent. But the whole motive for this film is, they plant the seed in Earth, and the seed grows into a giant tree, the Tree of Might, and the roots are planted into the Earth to suck the energy and the life form out of Earth. That is what the story of the film is. Turles is just another Saiyan. He's not related to Goku in any way. And it's just weird that they thought, oh yeah, let's make the bad guy look exactly like Goku. But he's got nothing to do with Goku, really. He's just another
Yeah,
Saiyan. And
he's just a low class Saiyan warrior.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, literally the explanation of him, the description of it, a low class Saiyan warrior who has a very similar appearance to Goku.
Yeah, and
Literally,
it makes no sense really why they made him look like Goku. I guess they just thought, oh, this would be cool to make him look like Goku. But apart from that, there's no real reason for him to look like him. But yeah, like you say, I completely agree with the fact he was the inspiration for Goku Black. People like Turles as a character, I think, overall, or his design at least. It's something a bit unique. He was definitely a trial of Goku Black, although at the time he was just the main Goku knockoff until Super came around. But yeah, they kind of realized, okay, we're not bringing back Turles, but we can kind of do something similar because you know the idea was there. An evil Goku. Let's try that again, like you mentioned, and
And they
yeah,
smashed it.
they
They
did.
absolutely
They
smashed
smashed
it.
the second time round. It worked, but
Yeah,
first time with Turles, his attacks are pretty cool. His armor and look was okay, I guess. You know, the Saiyan armor on Goku, which you don't really see. That's pretty cool. But as a whole, I don't know. He's mid tier for me on the list of
yeah,
Z movie villains. He's not. He's definitely not top, and he's definitely not bottom. He's somewhere in the middle.
yeah.
But overall,
For me,
he's okay.
he's in the top quarter for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think because of that, I think he's very important. He
yeah,
plays an important part.
yeah.
Um, he serves a purpose, and I find a lot of these villains don't.
Yeah, and you
That's
know,
why.
I guess he does eat the fruit, which makes him stronger. But without the fruit, he's nothing really.
Yeah,
Like you said, he's a low class Saiyan warrior. There's nothing special about him apart from the fact he looks like Goku. He eats the fruit to become strong, and that's it. If he doesn't eat the
yeah.
fruit, he's nothing. So
Basically,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But anyway, next up we have Lord Slug from the Lord Slug film, and yeah, what do you think about him?
He's your
He's
personal
another.
favorite, isn't he?
He's another interesting one. Yeah, what do you think?
uh, I think. Well, I mean, you covered it yourself, didn't you? Rank worst villain. I mean, we've covered it in a previous podcast. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, yeah, he's there's nothing to. I mean, the film doesn't really make sense. I mean, he attempts to terror Frieza to make the planet's atmosphere suitable for him and his kind, but I don't really get that. To me, it's Super Namekians. It's like to me when I think Namekians, I think of Namekians who I've seen
so the Frieza
previously,
saga and games.
who I know,
Yeah,
who don't have frozen worlds.
yeah,
So to randomly change that confuses me
mm,
and messes with my law, and I don't like that.
mm.
I like my established law. Now, if you tell me that there's a different type, it's like, okay, but
Why?
this needs to be in a story,
Yeah,
not just in a random film out
mm.
of nowhere. Like you need to establish yourself somewhere, not just a random exposition drop. I mean, it was vaguely interesting to see him go huge Namekian and stuff like that, but that's about the best of what you got out of him, really. I
yeah.
don't see how any of it made sense. And basically, he copied
Demon King Piccolo
Demon King
completely.
Piccolo. Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to be in my prime. It's like
he was a
been
complete
there,
ripoff, and
yeah, been
I
there, done that.
I don't want to like rehash everything I said. If you want to find out everything, then go check out one of the previous podcasts. Um, yeah, Lord Slug is just Demon King Piccolo 2.0. He has the same motives. The only difference is he comes from a different planet. Well, I guess technically Demon King Piccolo does as well. But he comes to try and take over the world. He's got the same motives. He wants to be young again. He goes Super Namekian, all big, strong, evil, and gets defeated. And there's nothing unique or special about him in any way. And yeah, he is bottom. I was thinking Dr. Wheelo because he is just a brain, but at least that is something unique. Lord Slug has no unique qualities about him at all. There is nothing special. He doesn't bring anything new to the table, not even a unique story or anything. So yeah, Lord Slug, completely bottom for me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's definitely fun. I mean, I just Dr. Wheeler causes me pain, physical pain. So he's not Lord Slug's second from bottom for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I agree he's bad.
Yeah, moving on though. Next up, we have Cooler from Cooler's Revenge and the Return of Cooler. And to me, he's actually up there. He's not number
I like
one
Cooler.
because I've said
Yeah.
Garlic Jr. number one. But Cooler, potentially
I,
second place. Definitely
yeah,
top three for me.
I agree with top three. Yeah, I like the concept of Cooler.
Hmm.
I think he loses points on Meta Cooler though. But
Yeah.
Cooler himself as a concept, he's seeking revenge for Goku,
Mm-hmm.
against
For
Goku
killing
for killing
Frieza.
Frieza.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like at first you think, that doesn't sound very like basically what Frieza's brother would be like. But then it's not because he killed Frieza, it's for his family's honor.
Yeah.
That sounds more about right.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
Yeah.
care about his brother, just cares about Like, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
So yeah, basically, you made my family look bad, so now I'm going to mess you up. That makes a lot more sense, and I like that because
yeah,
it keeps in kind with the type of people that freezers are.
yeah. And you
I
get to
can't
find
remember. I
out
can't remember the name of their species.
the frost demons. I think
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, but it's like it makes sense from their perspective that that's how they would view things. Not that they
Yeah.
care about each other,
Mhm.
but that they're looking to restore their honor more than anything
And it's
else.
nice because up to this point, the only, well, still, even to now, the only people of that race that you know of is Frieza and King Cold. You don't know anything else about their race, you don't know anything else about what their people look like or how strong they really are. If Frieza and Lord Cold were the only strong ones, who knows? Um, King Cold, sorry. But yeah, we have Cooler, and I really like him just because of the things he said. He's not really too bothered about Frieza, but he comes to restore his like honor and stuff, and he is good. And you also get to see him transform, just like Frieza. He goes into his second form, which is a big burly guy,
I like the
and
second
he
form
gets
too.
stronger. Yeah, and also even with like Metal Cooler, he's kind of merged with the computer, and he has the multiforms that he transforms into. Well, he kind of splits into, and that's also really cool to see. Like 100 Metal Coolers coming back for revenge, going wild. I really like it, and it's unique and different. Taking
The
the multiform technique to the extreme.
Yeah, the fights, the mini fights in against Map Cool are quite interesting as well,
Mm,
between Vegeta, Goku, and himself.
yeah.
And I do like the finishing move they do against the singular Cooler before they get captured, where they basically do the double punch to blow them up
Yeah, yeah.
with the double charge. I really like that attack. I
Mm.
really enjoy that attack. Um, but the concept of the big Getty Star to me is just
No,
takes away so much from
yeah,
it.
I don't like that. But I guess to bring him back, I had to think of something.
No, but it's just I think that's the thing. Like if they like Cooler himself, I really really liked, and the
Mm,
whole concept was really really good. Um, and I just think that like the way they brought back Frieza robotically, like
made
I didn't
sense.
really have an issue with
Yeah.
that,
Mm,
like too much. Like I mean, it didn't make a great deal of sense, but it wasn't too far out there.
yeah.
But it shows that they could use cybernetics
Mm,
to bring someone back.
mhm,
Why couldn't they have done it again? But they have to use this weird computer cyber that he merged with in the sun and in outer space, and it's like I, I think I just I kind of struggle to wrap my head around how it exactly works, and now all these robots like listen
mm,
to him and stuff, and they've enslaved these little inhabitants, and it's weird.
yeah. I mean, Cooler overall though, for me, he's still up there. Even if the Metal
Yeah,
Cooler, the thought behind him is a bit bad. I think
yeah.
overall the motives, the introduction, the fights, and just him as a character overall, I really like.
Mm.
But yeah, moving on. Next up is Android 13 from the Super Android 13 film. So for me, Trigger Hat Android 13, he's just bad. He's not good. I don't like him as a villain. He's not at the bottom, but he's close to the bottom.
I'm going to disagree.
Really? Okay.
Basic 13, yes. However, the concept of him being able to fuse, how he looks afterwards, fuse, I like his model afterwards, its evolved state. The fact that they link back to something from Z as well,
Mm,
something, so the supercomputer,
yeah.
um, that they've actually, so it's actually, they've looked back on something and said, okay, we had this, so
Mm,
there's still something there that we can utilize. I do like that form. I mean, it is a bit overpowered, but I do like the look of that. But yes, the original 13 in the weird trucker hat, yeah, that's kind of dumb.
yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of biased because I like me caps, but um, I mean, the film, yeah, the film's not great. Why does everybody love the snow?
No,
Um,
it reeks of Cell a bit too much for me. Like
Yeah,
the fact that he can transform and absorb and all this stuff, and the only redeeming factor of Super Android 13 to me is the punch to the nuts. Bam! Goku is childless. Bye bye Goten. But luckily, it's not canon, so Goten's still
but
around.
but
But
I do like. I think it looks quite cool. The fact that it can happen, and I just do like the form of how it looks. For
Blanca from
me that
Street
kind of
Fighter.
protects. Yeah, I mean, for me that kind of protects him from being that far from the bottom. I think
Mm,
he's very mid tier. I definitely don't think he's up near top.
no.
But I think it protects him from being near the bottom as much.
Mm.
Um, but I think it's purely more an aesthetic
Yeah,
more than anything else.
I guess
Uh,
so. Yeah.
yeah,
But let's move on. Next one up
yeah,
is probably the most controversial and one we'll probably have the most to say about, and that is Broly from Legendary Super Saiyan, which is his introduction, the second Common film, and then, oh, Bio Broly.
yes.
So,
We have to consider these all as one.
I guess you could technically class Bio Broly as his own since it isn't the
Yeah, how
original
we're gonna do
Broly.
this? Come on, how we're gonna do this?
Right.
Because we're gonna have to think.
Okay, let's split them up, but let's talk about all
Yeah.
three films at once.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's start from the start with his introduction.
Yeah.
So I hate the way he's introduced. I think he has terrible motives for
Yes.
being a bad guy,
Awful.
and but I absolutely love his design and how he looks. He is a slim, tall Saiyan with long hair, and he's got all the nice jewelry and stuff to make him look royal, I guess.
Yeah.
And I love his design. I completely love it. I think he is the best looking villain out of the original Dragon Ball Z film villains, which is probably why he got three films.
Hmm.
But yeah, his motivation and just the fact that, oh yeah, he hated Goku as a baby because he cried a bit too much, and yeah, that completely ruins him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically like it's just it's kind of again it's the Garlic Junior thing for me. It could make him. It takes what could be basically a really good bad guy
Mm.
and takes away so much from him based on one tiny silly little thing just ruins the entire concept of the character.
Yeah.
Um, but I do like the basically the whole um, the aesthetic, like I mentioned earlier with Android 13, the aesthetic is fantastic,
Hmm.
but the concept, the actual character is silly
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, bullying himself. But I mean, is the way he fights and everything like that in the
It's
actual
great.
film. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good, and I do like that.
Hmm.
And I think that's another saving grace for him.
Yeah.
So I think that puts him in the top area
Yeah.
for it.
And I
But
also I also like the fact that before he transforms and goes all rage, when they first meet him, he's actually like a nice Saiyan, because
yeah,
Saiyans are known for being ruthless and planet conquering people, workers, slaves, I guess, to Frieza. Um, and yeah, when you meet Broly, he's not like that. He's soft spoken. If anything, you might think he's pretty weak, even though he's like shredded, but he's thin.
he's very
um,
timid, isn't he?
yeah, he's very timid, and I really like that. And when he transforms, he hulks up, and yeah, he gets that rage mode, but the motivation really, really just damages him too much for me, which is why he's not top villain.
And the problem is that continues on to what I would say we should look at when we do the second coming one now.
Yeah, they doubled down on the motivation of crying. Because if you haven't watched the film, he comes back to Earth in a space pod, and he's like kind of stuck in the pod for a few years. He's like asleep.
Goes into a coma for 7 years.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
wakes up because way, 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 way in the distance, he hears Goten crying, and that's enough to give him the PTSD that he had. And he wakes up, and he's like, "There's crying kids." No, 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 not on my watch. And
But
yeah,
not only is it crying children, it's Goku's child crying. So in
Yes.
the first one, it was Goku crying. Now it's Goku's kid crying.
Yeah, it's like
So
he
they just
knows.
really don't like this, the Sun family's crying.
Yeah, unbelievable that that's the motivation for him being around again. But this
Oh, but I
film, I don't really like. I thought it was really good the first one, even though the motivations were a bit bad. But this one, they doubled down. And then the main focus was with Goten and Trunks, um, and I just didn't like it. It was just a rehash. There was nothing new about the character. There was nothing special about this second film. It was just to let Goten and Trunks have a bit of a run around on a film for a bit. But as far as progression for Broly, there's nothing. He
Hmm.
reverts, if anything, he just goes back to being Rage Broly straight away just because he hears crying. There's nothing new about him, nothing interesting about him in this one. So as a film, I would say this one's pretty bad.
Not the worst Broly though.
Not the worst Broly, but the worst Broly is Bio Broly. Yeah, we don't even need to really talk about why he's the worst. But I guess we need to. So
Swamp Thing Broly.
yeah, Swamp Thing Broly. So basically, Bio
A
Broly is just a
clone.
clone of the original Broly that's made by Lord Jaguar, and his body gets deformed by this culture fluid, and it becomes corrosive to air, which is why he turns into Swamp Thing Broly, and it's just terrible. From what I remember, I don't think Broly speaks in this film. He just goes rah, rah, and
He
screams a
rolls.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
but he doesn't speak from what I remember. And yeah, it is just Rage Broly back again with a very, very worse look. And it isn't even Broly, it's a clone. So there's nothing good to say about him.
I don't understand why they took that route. Like,
Yeah, I don't get it. Broly was everyone's favorite villain just because of his look and style, I guess.
mhm.
Which is why they did 3 films with him. But then they ruined it with the third one because they thought, well, what can we do? What should we do? We want to bring him back for a third, but let's try and make him a bit unique.
But the thing is, like, this is not like I'm looking back. This just isn't a Dragon Ball thing. This weird radioactive choice. It's
Yeah.
like why radiation type crows. It doesn't really make sense to me.
No,
You know,
no, I don't really get it. And even Lord Jaguar doesn't really do anything special in the film. They're both defeated. Broly's defeated by the air pretty much because he corrodes too much. Um, and yeah, it's not a good character. If anything, it just hurt Broly as a character more than anything else, and that's probably why they didn't bring him back. And then in Super, they decided, let's just start again. We had a good thing going. People liked Broly, and we ruined him. So let's just start again.
yeah.
Yeah, which
And
I'm glad they did because the new
oh yeah.
Broly is the best Broly.
And much like Turles and Goku Black, smashed out the park.
Yeah, although I kind of do wish they kept the original design because I really, really like the design of Thin Broly. But it kind of makes sense to have a big bulking Broly turn slightly bigger instead of a very thin Broly turn giant, I guess.
I don't know. I think I prefer the new model, to be honest.
Really?
I think it's kind of a with the whole Sheila thing. You've kind of got the Tarzan and Jane thing going on.
Yeah?
Like she's kind of like bringing him what's the word bringing him into civilization and
Hmm.
everything like that.
No,
Kind of makes
I like
sense.
it. I like
Yeah,
I completely love the new backstory of Broly.
yeah,
It's just the actual design. I much prefer the original.
yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that's just personal preference. Yeah, I do miss Skinny Broly, and that's never going to be seen again. But
No,
yeah, unless he decides to lose a lot of weight when he's training on Beerus's planet in this new film coming up. Who knows?
unlikely with the amount of food that lot eats.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
very true. But next up, anyway, after Broly is Bojack, and to me, he's also in top three. I love Bojack as a villain. He is a bit unique, you know. He was sealed away by King Kai, and he was released when Cell blows up the planet, which is cool to see. He's just an evil alien, and he's coming to get some revenge now. He's free again, and he has his team of alien cronies behind him. Who his alien cronies not so good, admittedly. Don't really like any of them. But Bojack as a whole, I think he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Space pirate.
Yeah, I do like Bojack. I agree. I think he's. I like his aesthetic. I actually like the way he looks. I would argue he has one of the better looks.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so too.
I think there's a lot of thought been put into it. I
Mm-hmm.
think you can argue that a lot of them are very plain. For instance, if you look at 13, his trucker version beforehand, it's just a vest.
Yeah.
Um, whereas with Bojack, it's like there's a full on get up.
Mm-hmm.
So they look like they've put some thought into it before they put them out. And there is lore, there is a full on lore behind it. They refer back to Z. It actually makes sense. Like the destruction in the other world with Cell's King Kai's world, it's
Mm-hmm.
the sort of thing that would make sense. I can see that it's enough of an exposition drop that you don't have to think too much behind it
Mm.
because we don't know enough about that part of Z to say that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, it makes there's enough for us to go, okay, I can get with that. Yep, I'm fine with that.
I
Yeah,
think.
so it's a nice balance.
Yeah,
So
I
I like that.
think as a villain, he is the one on this whole list that could have been canon easily. They could have easily made an entire arc out of Bojack straight after the Cell Saga, because it works and it makes sense. I understand why it's a movie, but they could have easily dragged this out as Bojack being the next big bad instead of, well, before Boo, I guess. Like, they could have had them be released, him recruiting his team members and causing trouble, and then a full arc of defeating the team members one by one before finally taking on Bojack himself. And good fights all round, I guess. It could have worked. It worked with Vegeta and Goku, Vegeta and Nappa, where there was a minion that would get rid of first. It worked with Frieza and the Ginyu Force. It could have worked here with Bojack and the Hera clan. And yeah,
You would have got to see Gohan flex a bit more.
yeah,
Uh, so you would have got to see more of him
mm-hmm.
rather than just immediately peaking and ending. You would have got to
Yeah,
see him be Earth's defender a
mm-hmm.
bit more
Yeah,
before Goku returns and Super straight away. And then, so it would have nice to have actually seen Gohan be made
do
Earth's
something.
defender
Yeah,
and have to defend the Earth
yeah.
properly.
I understand why they didn't do it because they decided let's keep Goku as the main character instead of
Yeah,
turning on Gohan instead, which makes sense. But also, they could have done it without him for an arc just to see what it would be like. Goku
yeah,
could have still been there doing stuff on the other world or whatever, just like he was for a lot of the Frieza saga, just with King Kai and all the Snake Way stuff that he did and going to hell and all that stuff. They could have had him stuck there or doing something. Who knows? They could have even maybe brought him back if they really wanted to. But it would have been nice to see Gohan do stuff. And I like Bojack. I think he's good.
well, it could have been the reason they decided to bring him back for Boo. They
Mm,
could have basically, rather than just, oh, there's a tournament, you've been really good, you can come back.
mm,
They could, like, Gohan could have won, but he could have only just won
mm,
by himself, and they could say, okay, yeah, I won, Dad, but I don't think I'm quite ready yet.
yeah.
I think I need your help still.
Mm,
And he can come back, and it makes sense. So it's like so there's a legitimate reason for Goku to be back. So
yeah.
they invite him back. So yeah, Gohan's had his time, and it
Hmm.
flows better, rather than it's just like, oh, Goku's back, great.
Yeah. Or even if they did it so like Gohan can't win without Goku, and Goku comes back and teaches Gohan something, maybe a new move or maybe anything really, and
Yeah,
Gohan still gets the win, but he can only do it because of Goku, and then that makes Goku be like, okay, well, I need to stick around.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's
No,
BoJack.
I approve of BoJack.
I
As a
really
bit,
like BoJack as well. Definitely
yeah,
top three. maybe second for me behind Garlic Jr. But anyway, moving on. We have two left. Next up is Janemba from Fusion Reborn. What do you think about him?
Oh no,
No,
no, he just doesn't make sense.
he doesn't. No,
He's a
I hate Janemba. I think he's a terrible, terrible villain. One of the worst. Not the worst, but probably maybe like eighth or seventh out of the 10. The only reason is because it's stupid. The way he comes about is completely stupid. You know, we
He's
have a
an angry
team.
teenager.
Yeah, it's a teenage Olga who's working in hell. He's like an intern type thing. You know, the evil soul's tank kind of explodes and the evil energy consumes him, and he turns into this fat blob Janemba. And I think Fat Blob Janemba is terrible as a whole. Yeah, he can distort reality and all this stuff, but his look is stupid. He doesn't speak. He just like kind of whines. And then even when he transforms, okay, I'll give Janemba something for this. When he transforms into Thin Janemba and he actually fights and stuff, I like the look of him and I like his techniques. I love the way he kind
Yeah,
of distorts reality to be able to move around and disapparate and come back together and all this stuff. He has really cool abilities and attacks. But as a character, terrible. And he doesn't
yeah,
speak, so he can't. There's no character growth. There is no real sense to why he's there, and he goes away just as quick as he appears. So yeah, terrible villain in my eyes, and
and I
probably
think
the worst Dragon Ball Z film potentially, with everything else that happens in it, with Hitler appearing, and everything else. The bad animation, like it's
I was
probably
going to
the
say the
worst animated
animation's
one.
awful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it does have
and
Gogeta in it.
for like 3 seconds though.
Yeah.
But I think I think one of the biggest problems for me is that the reasoning behind his motivations for being a bad guy
Mm,
is it's a teenager and he's a bad guy because a tank of evil souls explodes on him.
mm.
So he's not a bad guy for Cooler's reasons of the revenge of his family.
Nope.
He's not reasons for escaping from for being locked away, or or revenging for his father like Garlic Jr.
Mm.
No, evil souls.
Yeah.
It just makes zero sense whatsoever. It's just literally this is a bad thing that makes him bad.
Yeah.
It's lazy writing
It
as
is.
well. And I'm nothing, and we've discussed this a million times. There's nothing I hate more than lazy writing. So
Exactly.
it just annoys me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I do not like Janemba. He has, and like I do like his techniques. I agree with the technique side of things. Gogeta is a little bit of a saving grace, but
It's still a bad film
literally is in
overall.
it for 3 seconds. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally he turns into Gogeta and beats him
Destroys them.
in three. Yeah, it's literally about I think it's about 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, and Janemba's defeated
And
and the
then he
teenager
turns back into a teenager. Yeah. And
runs
then
away.
that's it. End of the
And yeah,
film.
done. Yep.
Yeah. But
Good
finally,
up.
we have one more villain, which is Hirudegarn from Wrath of the Dragon, who to me is an interesting one because he doesn't really fit the bill like all of the other villains in the list. Because I kind of see him more of like an animal rather than a person, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, he doesn't have any motivations which are unique or special in any way. He's kind of like a wild animal where he's just around just to cause destruction, and that's it. That is what he is. Um, think of him kind of like a dinosaur. You know, there's no good or bad dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are just dinosaurs, and they do what they got to do. And this is kind of what Hirudegarn is. He's this giant monster who's released, um, and yeah, he causes havoc, and that's all he does.
Yeah. Because it's about preventing Herudigan, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which they failed to do.
Mm,
Like, so it's like, yeah. So you always knew it was going to be released.
mm,
It's a Dragon Ball movie. It was always going to happen.
yeah.
But the concept of it was that you got to stop that happening.
Mm,
And so they didn't really focus any experts because he wasn't always there as the bad guy,
mhm,
so to speak.
yeah.
There was no reason for them to really give them any exposition.
Mm,
It was just going to be a bad guy. So when finally there and present, Didn't need a voice. Didn't need it. Just roar and destruction. Like Godzilla style.
Yeah.
So yeah, this it's really all you can consider is fighting and aesthetic. Really,
And the
um,
aesthetic, I think he looks pretty bad. If I'm honest, he's
the
one of
battle
the
too. Yeah,
yeah, he's the least memorable villain out of this list, I think. But this film as a whole is probably maybe my favorite Dragon Ball Z film. Um, just because it has Tapion in it, it shows you Trunks getting the sword, it shows Goku Super Saiyan 3. There's a lot of good stuff that happened in this film, and there's a lot of cool fighting in it as well. Just overall, the villain isn't very good, but with all the hints throughout the film that Tapion might be the bad guy and stuff, and all of the interactions with Trunks, who's my boy, he's my favorite character, I really like this film. But Hirudegan as a villain, mid tier. Nothing special
yeah.
about him, but
I think
he's just
it's
there.
like it's just because there's nothing to them. It's like not necessarily good or bad. It's just
He's all power.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing to make them of note. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that protects them from being lower down in the list.
Yeah. So I guess we've ran through all 10. So let's just wrap up this segment. Let's do top two, bottom two. Who you going with?
um, I think I'm going to give. Oh, I'll let you do yours first.
Right.
I'll let
Okay.
you, and I'll have a think.
That's fine. So my bottom two, the worst of the worst, is Lord Slug, just because there's nothing unique about him. Second bottom has to be Doctor Wheeler, just because he's a big brain, but he's at least unique and it's something different. Um, Top two though, gotta be BoJack, and then number one is Garlic Jr. Has to be. I love Garlic Jr. I think he's great. And yeah, apart from the ending of the film, I think he's a really cool villain, really cool origin story, really unique, and he succeeds at using the Dragon Balls, which doesn't happen much. So I gotta give him number one. But yeah, what about you? What do you think?
So I think you give a good talk after we had a chat. I think I've been too cruel to Garlic Jr. So I'm going to go with I do like Cooler.
Mm.
So despite the concept behind the Big Getty Star and everything like that, I'm going to give Cooler as a character the number one spot.
Yeah,
And I'm
understandable.
going to give Garlic number two.
Yeah.
Uh, the number 10, the worst, is Bio Broly. Because I'm upset.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should. I'm not making him worse than Lord Slug, but yeah, maybe he is worse than Doctor Vila. Maybe he can
Yeah.
be ninth.
And then number 9, Dr. Relo.
Yeah,
And
fair
then
enough.
I would end up going Lord
Yeah,
Slug.
fair enough. But this has been a really long segment.